NXT just keeps proving me why it's the only show I can't miss on a week-to-week basis. The whole opening of the show was just so good. Booker T coming out and being the hype man, running down all the matches for tonight, what's gonna happen. I just loved it. I feel like Booker T is the perfect guy for this. He just oozes aura and his voice is so perfect to just get you hyped for everything. I love that. Now, while I can't go through the card one by one, I think everybody wants to know what happened with the Undertaker and Trick Williams. Let's just get down to that. Trick Williams comes out and says after Slammiversary he proved why he's the greatest TNA champion of all time. And then he goes on to compliment Undertaker, saying how Undertaker is a legend and a Hall of Famer, but he's never had to hold down two brands just like Trick Williams is doing right now, which inarguably makes Trick Williams better than the Undertaker. That's what causes the Undertaker to come out, and he basically just calls Trick Williams a jackass. Now, obviously he says a lot more than that, but to summarize, he calls Trick Williams a jackass. Undertaker goes on and tries to talk about some of his LFG students, but Trick Williams says none of them have a potential similar to Trick Williams. They're all just gonna be jobbers. Undertaker gets pissed and Trick Williams pisses his pants. Now Undertaker tries to give him one last piece of advice. Trick tries to swing on Undertaker, but Undertaker chokeslams him, and that's the end of that. I think this was really cool. I know there's not a lot that really happened for it. It was pretty much just a one-off segment, but I think for what it was pretty cool. I mean, Trick Williams having an interaction with a legend, it just shows how much trust NXT and WWE in general have in him. Like, I know a lot of people try to say what happens on NXT is purely on Shawn Michaels, and while that's true, obviously, you know, Triple H and everybody at the top have to give the heads up to literally everything that happens on NXT too. So I think this was cool. I really liked it, and while I would have liked a match to be set up, not between Undertaker, but maybe between Trick Williams and like Shiloh Hill, because I really like Shiloh Hill, I think that would have been cool. I think we could have done something with that, like just a one-off match next week. But okay, for what this was pretty cool. I really enjoyed it. Now back to the opening of the show, we had Zarya, Sol Ruka, Hank and Tank going up against the Culling. The match ended after Zarya was having the upper hand. Sean Spears threw in a doll for Tatum Paxley and the lights went out. All of a sudden, Dark State surrounded the ring. I'm gonna be honest with you before I continue, I don't give a damn about Dark State anymore. It felt like they were slowly building something. I was slowly getting invested, and then they lost to the system at Slammiversary. In a match I repeatedly said they should not have lost. It was a match they absolutely should have won. But what do I know? So the lights go out and this allows for an opportunity for Tatum Paxley to hit her in the dark and then pick up the victory. So the Culling have a victory and Tatum Paxley finally gets a pinfall victory, even though it's in a 8-man tag team match. But I know all the Tatum Paxley stands out there are very happy right now. I guess this is going to lead to a Tatum Paxley versus Zarya match. That will make a lot of sense. And well, I don't know how that can go, because you know, it's probably going to be Zarya pinning Tatum Paxley, unless Tatum Paxley cheats and this leads to a match against Sol Ruka. Both ways can make sense. I'm fine with either. We have a segment with JC Jane where she comes out holding both championships. Okay, I'm gonna be honest, I'm loving JC Jane's reign. Now, I was so concerned at the very start, and I keep saying this that every week I'm getting more invested, but really, like, JC Jane as champion has been really good. I really don't mind her being a double champion. I know a lot of people are pissed, I get that. I don't give a damn. JC Jane has been an incredible champ, and while I don't think she's at the level of someone like Mariah May for Blake Monroe, or even the former champions like Julia or Stephanie Vacker, I do think like her recent storyline has really elevated her to a completely different level. Regardless, she says that, well, she's doing pretty good for someone who's just a third wheel and the most beautiful NXT Women's Champion. That leads Lash Legend to come out. Lash Legend wants a piece of JC Jane. Jada Parker also comes out. We get a little bit of a back and forth, and here's the interesting part that I really like. JC Jane tells the rest of Fatal Influence to attack the two girls. They're just like, no, we're not going to do that. So JC Jane does it on her own. Obviously, the other two members of Fatal Influence fall in, but Jada Parker and Lash Legend manage to get the upper hand, throw them out before running back to back into each other, and that's where the segment ends. Now later backstage, you know, it's announced that, well, Michelle McCool comes up, also from LFG. She basically says that each member of Fatal Influence should have a match next week, so Jasmine Nix is going to face Jada Parker and Fallon Henley is going to face Lash Legend. But JC Jane is like, yeah, you know, Fallon, you're better than Jasmine, so you probably have a better chance to beat Lash. I'm really enjoying the slow descent we're seeing of Fatal Influence, and I know a lot of people want Fallon Henley to be the one to eventually dethrone JC Jane, and I don't feel that. Like, even when she was a babyface, I didn't really feel her run. I was not really invested in her as a babyface, and now when we're talking about her as a heel, she has always been the least interesting member of Fatal Influence for me. Even when she had the championship, I'm not really invested in her now. Hopefully, you know, you can do something with that. But once JC Jane loses that championship, I hope it's not to Fallon. If Fallon costs her the championship, that's totally fine. I'm okay with that, but I don't want to see Fallon Henley as a world champ. But then again, when JC Jane won the championship, I really was also not sure. So maybe, who cares? I have faith in Shawn Michaels, so I'm gonna give him the benefit of doubt if that's where it's going. but the constant slow falling out of Fatal Influence has been really interesting. Then we also have a match, Blake Monroe's first match on NXT, well, on NXT the show, not on NXT in general. You know what I mean. Her first match on the weekly NXT show, she defeats Ren Sinclair, a pretty quick match which makes sense. She tries to talk on the mic after the match, that's when Jordynne Grace jumps the barricade. She was banned earlier in the night from the ring and we saw some clips of that. That didn't really matter, we know she was going to interfere in the match. She gets her hands on Blake Monroe but security push her off, and after she destroys all the security, like literally demolishes them, Blake Monroe drops her down on the chair with a butterfly DDT. Again, another feud I've really been enjoying. It's a really good feud. This is another one of those feuds where I'm not sure how I want it to go, because obviously I want Blake Monroe to win this feud because I'm really invested in Blake Monroe. I really like her. I think she has a lot of potential and it feels like her first major feud should be one she wins. But then when it comes to Jordynne Grace, this is also the first time I've really been invested in her on NXT. Ever since she got signed to NXT full time and has been here, I haven't really felt her. She hasn't really gotten any stories that I really cared about until now. This whole thing with Blake Monroe, even before this, the JC Jane stuff, but Blake Monroe is involved with that too. And I feel like she should have that big major victory, her first actual major victory on NXT, because she's been here, what now, like 6 months, and she hasn't really had that major definitive victory, and this would be that. Since we just talked about Ren Sinclair, before the match, her match against Blake Monroe, which she lost, she was talking to Tavion Heights and Charlie Dempsey, when Miles Bourne comes up and he tries to cheer her up, give her some hype, but Charlie Dempsey tells him to just leave. He's not part of the NQCC anymore. Everybody walks away when we see Lexis King backstage just kicking a bunch of boxes for apparently no reason. Now after the match, after Ren lost, Bully Ray comes up and he says basically Tavion Heights and Charlie Dempsey should have a rematch next week. If Tavion Heights wins, if Tavion Heights wins, he gets to leave. If Charlie Dempsey wins, Tavion Heights has to stay in the NQCC with a smile on his face. Now everybody leaves, Miles Bourne is left alone once again when Lexis King comes up with headphones on his head, and he basically says he knows Miles Bourne is lying about being deaf. He's been wearing these headphones making noise all night long and he hasn't heard anything, so Miles Bourne isn't deaf. And then Miles Bourne is like, you know, I am deaf, you're not deaf, you're not blind, but everybody wishes you were mute. And I like that. This little mini feud between Miles Bourne and Lexis King, it's been pretty entertaining. I've quite enjoyed it. Then we had a tremendous segment from Ethan Pa-ge where he talks about the North American Championship, how it's had 17 American holders, and how he wants to rename the championship into the NXT Canadian Championship. Or well, you know, it's maybe still the North American Championship, but it has this beautiful Canadian strap, and I really think the belt looks incredibly beautiful. Not as beautiful as the traditional North American Championship, one of the prettiest belts in NXT, but goddamn, that strap does fit it pretty nicely. He wants the crowd to come together and sing the Canadian national anthem. He tries singing it himself when Santino from TNA comes out and basically challenges him to a match for that North American Championship next week. Well, that's a quick build. I think we could have run it out more, especially for someone like Santino, but hey, I think it's going to be a pretty damn awesome match. Yeah, not much to say about the build here. I think it's going to be a pretty solid match. Ethan Pa-ge is probably going to retain, but I think it would be pretty funny if Santino captured that championship, and that's the championship that TNA gets to go and hold from NXT. Wow, now that I'm thinking about that, that would be a big ass slap in the face, especially for Ethan Pa-ge, how good his run's going. But that won't happen. They didn't give him this strap just for one night only to just drop it. But overall, again, pretty solid segment. Ethan Pa-ge has some massive heel heat and I'm very happy for him with that. This also just justifies my comment that NXT should go on the road a lot more because, you know, obviously the PC is a good place for people to train, but you have the same audience each and every week and eventually they just get used to what you do. So Ethan Pa-ge, after like 6 weeks of doing the same heel shenanigans, the fans there are going to get used to it, but when you tour like you are in Houston tonight, you genuinely get a real reaction of how people feel about Ethan Pa-ge, and he has some major heel heat. So I think NXT should really go on the road a lot more, at least every 3 or 2 weeks. Like that would really benefit all the talent involved. Then in the main event, it was for the TNA World Championship. Obafemi successfully retains the championship against Yoshiyuki Inamura and Josh Briggs. Now, the whole story of the match was Briggs and Inamura not being able to get along. They're tag team partners, but they've been having problems recently, and the fact that they couldn't get along and let one or the other win the championship is what caused their downfall, and Obafemi successfully retains that championship. Now, after the match, Josh Briggs attacked Inamura after the match. Wow, I just said after the match twice. And I think this is pretty much the end of this, and we're gonna probably see a feud between Inamura and Briggs, which is fine. Now here's the thing, I don't know where we're going with Josh Briggs. It feels like I keep trying to invest in the guy. I mean, his entrance is pretty cool. I like that thing with the skull. I mean, he's pretty good in the ring, but there's something lacking. And that's something that Inamura has, where Inamura just has that cool factor. You're like, okay, this dude is pretty cool, I really like him. Briggs, he doesn't have that. I don't really see where we're going with Briggs. Now after the match, we have Javon Evans looking on backstage. During the night, he's been talking to a lot of different people, trying to write different stuff on his notepad, figuring out where he wants to go next with his career. That's when the Undertaker appears and says, you know what you should do? You should just go after the biggest dog in the yard. You know, hinting at Obafemi, and it's pretty clear that we're going to get Javon Evans and Obafemi for that NXT Championship, a feud I've been begging for, and I'm so excited for that. I just realized I forgot to mention the match between Jasper Troy and Ricky Saints. Jasper Troy successfully defeats Ricky Saints via countout, and I mean the match was pretty cool. You know, it was okay, not the best match ever, just your regular match. I really wish Jasper Troy actually got a singles victory, like a clean pinfall victory, because every one of his matches he's lost so far. He lost to Javon Evans, he lost to Obafemi, he lost to Inamura, didn't he? Well, regardless of what happens, I think he gets a victory, but it would have been nice to see him get a major pinfall victory. But yeah, that's NXT for tonight. And I'd give this show a solid 9 out of 10. It wasn't perfect, but I think the entertainment value I got out of it was very, very good. I really solidly enjoyed every moment of the show. Even if segments like The Undertaker and Chuck Williams didn't mean a lot, I think it was just pretty damn awesome, and that's all that matters, right? You want to watch wrestling and you want to get enjoyment out of it, at least for the particular style you're looking for. And that's exactly what NXT gave me tonight, so I left the show very happy. Did you? Let me know what you think. Did you enjoy NXT tonight similar to me or not? You know, my overreacting for how good it was. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the video. I cover NXT and TNA weekly. Leave a like, subscribe. I hope to see you again soon.
Okay, bye.